Hello, pursuers. Welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. I am your lovely podcast host, Nas Kazimi. And what totally sucks is that I feel like I'm getting a little bit sick. Can you guys believe this? I come back to my hometown to do some events and whatnot, and I get sick. I've been in Mexico for 4+ months and I never got sick once. I'm so frustrated. I'm so annoyed, but hopefully my voice kind of stays normal during the sickness. I'm so annoyed. You guys have no idea. Regardless, let's get into it. Let's get into some. Do you guys know what we're going to be covering today? Let's get into some Valley Persian style. You guys, what do you guys think of it? I know right now it's February 14th, so there's a lot of demonstrations going on for Persians all over the world, kind of like the unity, the solidarity stuff. So if you guys have attended or are supporting your fellow Persian friends, I just want to give you a big shout out. Thank you so much for doing that. It really makes a difference for us just to know that we have support during times like this. And also, I know that the traffic and whatnot is annoying. Like, I would be so annoyed at that. But unfortunately, I feel like anyone that protests is just their way of sending a message to the rest of the world, you know? And how lucky are we that we're able to peacefully protest here, because in parts of the world we're unable to do that, you know? And again, like, really bad timing with the Persian, the Valley Persian style, because I mean, it's such a good show, but unfortunately, just with what's going on, I don't know if it's gonna get the reach that it potentially could. Although I did see somewhere that it got number 2 most streamed show on Peacock, like for the first episode, so that's always good, you know? Yeah. Okay, the Valley Persian style. We're gonna start off with episode 6. It's where Bamshad is saying Skye's not acting like herself after she left the really heated dinner in Palm Springs. But he's still sitting at the table. He didn't chase after her, whatnot. I feel like he did this because he's kind of like confused. He's maybe you've never seen her react this way, and especially in front of a group of people. Then you throw the cameras in there. It's just like he's trying to do the best that he can to remain calm. He doesn't want to blow up on camera. He's just kind of unsure of what his next step should be. And I think this takes some getting used to. I don't blame him at all. I understand this. He's probably never seen her like this. It's uncomfortable for him. He has his friends on one end saying one thing, and then she's stormed off. He's probably just trying to process it all, like, especially like you can see I'm not saying he doesn't speak English, just English isn't the first language, and sometimes it takes a little bit extra for them to process what just really happened. And I know that for a fact from my own parents, you know. So, if it was in Farsi, it's one thing, you know, they jump in immediately because it just rolls off their tongue. But sometimes when it's something that you have to process, and it's just something that it takes you back a little bit, like you're just trying to understand what's going on. And especially, it's not even it's not in your native tongue. This is no excuse. I'm just saying, you have to process, you know. So I'm feeling that that's probably what happened in that situation. And I feel like he's doing the best that he can in that moment to say, look, because he can only defend his wife. He's not going to be like, "Whoa, Gigi, I've never seen you behave that way," or whatever. Like, you know, like, again, he's damned if he do, and he's damned if he doesn't. Because if he gets involved, okay, don't be a bitch, stay out of it, as Nene would say on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. If he doesn't get involved, he's getting shit on, you know? Part of it, I do think that he kind of agrees with what everyone's saying. But I don't think that he was allowing people to speak to her because he agrees with what they're saying. I think it's just he's, again, just processing. Do I think Skye's being unreasonable? I think she has some high demands, high expectations. I'm telling you, typical Persian girl. I do like her a lot. Typically I don't get along in real life with girls like that. It's just the way that we live our life is a lot different. I'm not a lot like Gigi, but I'm not really like hood that way as hood as she is, you know. Maybe in my 20s, but I'm also just like I like to see it from a third point of view like this, because then it's nice to kind of see where they come from. Sometimes when you're in the mix, it's hard for you to understand the other person's point of view, so you'll always be biased against them and never want to make things work. But again, because I typically don't get along with girls like Skye, I like her so much. I just like how she stayed calm during the whole thing, and you know, like, she was able to walk away. Like, she knew when to walk away. Like, she has really good, clear boundaries, and I can appreciate that in her, right? So she ends up leaving Palm Springs that night, and Bamshad leaves with her. Reza tries to go apologize to her. She's not having it. Of course, she's pissed. Reza's pissed. Reza's been drinking. Not a good time to apologize, but he tried. Reza apologized to the group for anything that conspired shortly after his confrontation with Skye. And that was nice of him, you know, because he did bring up some things, especially with Tanin, which I don't think was his place to say. But he was just probably so frustrated with Skye. It's just different point of views, you know. Another thing about Skye I find that makes her a little bit different than everyone from the rest of the group is she's come from Iran by herself. So maybe she has more higher expectations than, you know, most. And it comes across, I think another thing is the way that she communicates. And I give this to my mom all the time. The way you enunciate, and even when I was in Mexico and I was trying to say certain words, they would be like, what? And I was like, I just listened to Google Translate. I just learned how to say it in Spanish. How come you can't understand it? But it could be because the way I'm saying it, it's just not landing. Like, it's just not landing on the right pronunciation. I'm not putting emphasis on the right part of the word. So I feel like when she's talking in English, she's speaking with Farsi emphasis, and it doesn't work well, because then it makes her seem like she's saying it in a different type of way. The tone is different, you know? My mom does the same thing. She could just be speaking to us, but the way that she says it is a tone that she would say it in Farsi words, but she uses that tone in English words, and then it comes across a little bit more aggressive, if that makes sense. So anyways, getting back to Skye and Bamshad, the next day they sit down for coffee. And Skye says that she's disappointed in Bamshad, and more so at Tanin as well. She says Reza, Jax, and surprisingly Gigi are the only ones who've reached out to her. I'm not surprised. Gigi is a lot like my brother. She'll spaz out, and then later she'll realize what she did, and she'll apologize. See how I have all these Persian people that are like, I have them too in my life. Like, I have a Gigi in my life. I have Reza Jax, you know? And Reza's obviously friends with her, so he can see the best in her. He knows that this isn't maybe her best light that she's shown, or she doesn't mean it that way, even though it comes off that way, you know? Anyways, Skye also says that Bamshad tends to freeze up when she needs him the most. And again, I refer back to, like, I feel like he just probably was trying to process what was going on, and he wanted to have the best reaction. It's a lot of pressure again with their cameras being brand new, and like there's a bunch of them all around, and then your wife just kind of spazzed out and people were yelling at her, and you're just kind of understand, like, how did it all go so left? Like, they were literally just talking like 30 seconds ago, you know? Skye's hard to please, as most Persian girls are, and she's also a little bit more closed-minded. Now let me try to explain that, because I don't want to offend, like, for example, if she listens to this or anybody else that's finds themselves to be similar to her, but I find that when she's backed into a corner, she's not going to listen to anybody else's opinion. Somebody always has to be the bigger person. And this has been some of the reason why it was hard for me to get along with other Persian girls similar to Skye, because I always had to be the bigger person. I always had to be the one that, you know, took responsibility. And I'm not saying Skye, but she just seems in that moment that she's not trying to hear what anybody else has to say. She's listening, but with the intention of responding. She's not listening to actually hear, you know? And I think this might be where it is. Like, she's really set in that she's correct. And most people are when they've kind of come out of a battle, you know, or they've come out of a confrontation, or they've come out of kind of disagreement or an argument. But then I think part of it is also being able to say, okay, like, if I did something that could have made them think that I was this way, that I was snobby, my bad. Maybe I should, maybe I should ask my friends how they want me to, like, you know, express my opinion. Especially because she's in a group setting. This is kind of how Housewives, Shahs of Sunset, the Valley Persian Style, the regular Valley, this is how it works. It's all about confrontation. It's not going to be all like bumblebees and flowers and rainbows and sunshine. It's mostly a show about confrontation. So for the most part, it really helps people that are in these situations because they're able to kind of see where they went wrong and to correct their behavior. Unfortunately, I feel for her because I don't think she understands that quite yet. Like, this show is all going to be about confrontation. And I think if she really gets good at being able to handle herself and take accountability in these confrontations, I think she's going to be like, everyone's going to love her. And this is why Tanin's become a favorite, because she's able to say, look, if I did something wrong, my bad. But she's usually the one that always has to reach out. She was the one that was willing to go meet with Skye. She didn't say anything bad about Skye. She's like, I was disappointed with my friend, but I love my friend, blah, blah, blah. And you're on a reality show. And so I understand how Skye would feel like, how come my friend didn't come to me first? But then remember, I was talking to you in the previous episode how Brittany Cartwright has these kind of conversations. Hey, look, we're on a reality show. I'm going to bring something to the camera. I'm just giving you the heads up. Maybe they have to get to a point like that so that Skye doesn't feel blindsided by her friend, because I think that this also comes from a place of hurt. The way that Skye is really like putting her guard up is because she's hurt. She's put her guard down, and now she feels like her best friend has sort of blindsided her and just kind of left her in the dark. And of course that's going to hurt, You thought that you were in this together. And then, not to mention, Bamshad also kind of froze up in that moment, so she's feeling more let down than ever, I think that with girls like her, or just people like her in general, you just have to give them time. And if over time they don't see, I'm not saying that she was the only one that's wrong, I'm just saying, but she doesn't see her part in what went wrong, then that could be a red flag for like friendship, relationship, anything, Interesting again, Mauricio's on the Valley Persian style. He's just everywhere, isn't he? He's MJ's boss. MJ and him are having a discussion as she wants to make $1 million by next year. Very ambitious of her, proud of her. Tanin and Greg are communicating, getting along better. Tanin is planning a girls' night with Persian food and Adam, and I laughed at that. And Greg is going to plan another boys' night, and by Bamshad, and Tanin agrees because she still loves Skye and Bamshad, but she understands that Skye can sometimes be a little bit, in her words, selfish. In my words, I feel like it just needs time to cool off. And again, if she doesn't realize that she's done anything wrong or doesn't come back to the group, then that could be a huge red flag. Like if she doesn't really kind of like figure out how she's going to kind of reintegrate herself back into the group, it might be hard for her to be on the show, and then she's going to lose the platform. So her personality is great for TV. I just hope that I just hope that she learns how to utilize it and curate it so that she could be a better character on TV, if that makes sense. Still be mad about those things, but learn how to quickly get over it and move on. I know that's tough for Persians. We don't move on quick, guys. We hold grudges forever. I do love Natasha and Amir's relationship. Amir visits his previous girlfriend's grave in October on the anniversary of her death and birthday. And yay, October. I'm October 8th. My daughter was born October 10th. And my dad's October 12th. The best people are in October. Isn't Kim Kardashian in October as well? There's a whole bunch of other October people, so yay. But he says that he loves Natasha and he wants her to come with him when he visits the grave because he doesn't want her to think that he's still in love with the ex. Like, he loved her, but he's moved on. He will always have love for her. But now his life is with Natasha and his 3 kids, right? So he wants to include her in that, like, so that she doesn't think weird, I think Natasha's handling it very well, to be honest. When boys' night rolls around, Bamshad shows up and he's a bit upset with Greg, but more upset with himself that he didn't stand up for Skye. And literally, he's in the doghouse at this point. Greg said he would have continued on had Bamshad yelled at him to stop. And Reza also apologized to Bamshad. Now, I don't think Greg, I don't know what Greg was trying to say. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Because the way that he said it was almost like, because Bamshad didn't say anything, it's okay to go in on his wife. I don't think he meant that. I think more what he was trying to say is like, look, if you had really had a problem with it, I would have just stopped immediately. I think that he was just kind of expressing his feelings to Skye. It went wrong. That's fine. Sometimes conversations go left, But the way that he kind of apologized or explained himself to Bamshad, and as a viewer, kind of made it seem like Bamshad allowed him to do that, and Bamshad didn't allow anything. Bamshad just sat there and was taking it all in, I think Bamshad's very understanding. And I love the way that he kind of listens before he responds. And I think, again, that's probably why he didn't say anything that night. Again, English not at first. Not that he doesn't speak English well. He speaks English very well. But not his first language, not his native tongue. So sometimes it takes a little bit more time to process, Like, okay, really what's going on here? Pressure of the cameras being around. They're not in a new friend group, but they're all together. And all of them together could be brand new for them, He was just trying to understand what just happened. So, but he was very understanding, and Reza also apologized for creating chaos. And he's right now kind of scared to talk to Skye. She's a bit scary when she's upset, you know. And I think part of what's scary about her is that, like, you know that you're going into something and, like, she's not going to really hear you. She's just going to listen to respond. Like, she's waiting to answer, to give an answer, but she's not actually going to hear what you have to say. And so that can be a little intimidating. And again, I feel like, because I've had experience with people like this before, it's just give them time. If they don't come around, they don't come around. And that's their choice. And you also have a choice to walk away from it. Or at that point, you have a choice to kind of be like, I'm surprised you haven't, you know, reached out. I really want to make this friendship work. Like, what can we do to move forward? You know, and then honest conversations like, this is what I need from you. And I think that people like that have that personality kind of do better when in that moment you're annoyed with them, you tell them rather than you kind of bottle it in and bring it up later, you know? That's why I find that her and Gigi are a lot alike in that way. Like, they prefer the honesty rather than kind of the fakeness. Amir's a tax accountant and a lawyer, so he goes to Gigi to meet with Dennis, and Dennis proposed 2 contracts because Gigi wants to work with him to get her intimates lying with the sex toys getting back up. Now, one's a monthly check regardless, and one's a 25% ownership. But Amir says that he'll go back and forth and he'll be in touch with Dennis. I think it was smart for Gigi to bring in Amir, considering how the way that her and Dennis are. You don't want, not only was Amir there as well, but there was also cameras. So now no one can say, well, you said this and no, you said that, you know? So that was a good move. The funny part was for this is when Amir says they'll go back and forth and he'll be in touch with them, but then Gigi says she needs a care package. And for a friend, she gets all the anal stuff and butt plug stuff, and poor Amir feels so uncomfortable. Like, it was so funny. Like, I was dying laughing, you know? So Skye meets with Reza Jax, and this is where this episode ends. We're going to go into episode 7. We're going to recap that as well. But surprise, surprise, Tanin shows up. That little cheeky Reza. Now, into episode 7, Skye and Tanin are face to face after Reza Jax set them up and took their purses so they can't leave. And he's like so proud of himself for this. This is where I kind of like him. Like, before I find him a little bit cheesy, a little bit corny, but I like him here, you know? Tanin wants to see if Skye actually cares about their friendship. Skye still doesn't seem to understand where Tanin is coming from, and nor if she's done anything wrong with this kind of friendship. And I don't think that she even knew. Like, she was totally blindsided. I don't think that what she's done was wrong. I think that this is where Tanin needs to take ownership and be like, I should have come to you sooner. Because it coming out as a dig when Reza's upset doesn't really make it seem, you know? I think that's where Skye's having a hard time kind of taking accountability. But I did hear her say in this conversation, look, if I did something that offended you, I apologize for that. You know, I did hear her say that. So that's kind of nice. But if you guys are friends, sisters, and like have sleepovers and sleep with each other rather than sleep with the husbands, I think that she's owed a little bit more of an explanation face to face rather than hearing it from other people. So I do understand that. I do understand both point of views. Mercedes sits down, finally some MJ stuff, because last episode was really the group heavy, and now like it's more individualized again this episode. Mercedes sits down with Tommy and tells him that she's sharing an event, and it's going to be at Layla's house, and Tommy is never there. Tommy finally freaks out, okay? He says he went to jail in anger management, and he's never going to forget those, and he has no intention of reconciling with Reza. And that, again, is probably where the point of contention starts from. It has nothing to do with Reza. It has to do with the fact that Tommy... Okay, forget Reza, but Tommy doesn't come out for any other event, doesn't want to meet any other people on the show. It's starting to really weigh heavy on MJ. Like, the future is looking dim. Like, if this is how he's like with just these people, and this for show that could bring them income, he could be like, you know, how is he going to be like with other people? From this looks of it, they don't even like go out together at all, and when they do, it's very far and few in between for like anniversaries, stuff like that, you know. But group settings, it seems like he never does that. You see MJ meeting with Reza to help him figure out how to turn Reza's dad's ashes into jewelry. And I've never heard of that before. That's a first. Wow. People, Iranians and their gold, you know. This is where Mercedes or MJ, sorry, I just call her MJ, it's easier, tells Reza that she wants to have a Twilight open at Layla's house, who's Gigi's sister, and that Gigi has no relationship with, which Reza feels that MJ should personally give Gigi the heads up face to face. Because this is going to be another point of contention, as Gigi is friends with them but has no relationship with Layla, and now MJ wants to host something at Layla's house. It's going to be a bit awkward for Gigi, and Reza feels like she has the right to know beforehand, and I agree. Mercedes does say that she'll confirm or let Gigi know once the date is confirmed. Okay. Now Skye and Bamshad go for dinner. Skye tells Bamshad about the lunch with other Jane and Tanin, and she fills him in, but she states that she's the most mad at Bamshad for not stepping in. But he does say that he did talk to the boys later. And he said all these things, and I agree. I mean, if hopefully by now that the footage is aired, she can see that he did kind of have her back. But I think she's still holding resentment that in that moment he wasn't there for her. And then they get into some Persian fighting words, and I love when I hear them talking Persian, because not only do I learn a little bit more, like pushta mana khali guzashti, it means like you left my back empty. Like Persian words are just so, even in fighting words, it's so like poetic, it makes so much sense. I grew up in a Persian household. I've heard fighting like this before. It wasn't necessarily pushta mana khali guzashti or anything like that. Like it wasn't like you didn't have my back, but I definitely had parents that fought. So I'm honestly rooting for them, and I hope that they can work through it, because my parents ended up in divorce, And you know what? Sometimes you just go through it, and it takes maybe they've been okay for 20 years, and then it takes a certain event for them to realize that maybe they're just not what they thought that they were, But I really hope that I hope that Skye stays open-minded about this and makes it a learning point rather than something that she wants to hold on to and not move past from, because I feel like it would suck if she was in that position, because they're so cute. They're such a good couple. And I actually started following them recently on Instagram, and I feel like they're still together, so that's good news. So the next part is funny. They go to Gigi's Shangri-La, as Reza calls it. It's a botanical, flowery kind of garden that you smoke weed. This is where MJ tells Gigi about the Twilight event that she's having at Layla's house, and Gigi is not having it at all. MJ's asking Gigi to be open-minded about it, and Gigi looks at her and says, well, is Tommy going? And she's like, no, he's not feeling comfortable. And Gigi says, well, same with me. See how Tommy doesn't feel comfortable, and you guys don't pressure him to come? You just say, okay, that's fine. I don't feel comfortable going, so I won't, and I'm not going to be there. In that moment, Reza decides to send a message to Tommy, and it's pretty heartfelt, I felt. I think that he did a good job. I think, he was, if everyone, I didn't realize that he hadn't quite yet, but if they were all expecting Tommy to come and Reza to just ambush him at an event, I think that would have been worse. I'm glad he did, but I think at this point, they have to understand that if Tommy just denies any sort of friendship or reconciliation, then that's Tommy's choice, because he's done his part, This next part is kind of cute. Natasha and Amir fight about Amir getting a vasectomy. This is a conversation I've heard before through friends and whatnot. Amir's the one who says that he does want a baby. He doesn't want a baby number 4, but also doesn't want a vasectomy. Like, aren't men the most undecisive creatures on earth, you guys? I'm telling you. It's insane. He's the perfect guy, I find Amir, but this kind of is a little bump in the road. Like, this kind of made me question him a little bit, okay, so you appear perfect, but you do have flaws, so you're human still, so that's good to know. It's good to know that you're human. Reza and Tanin meet up for Persian food. Reza, a Farhan, and they discuss the boys' night with Bamshad. Reza knows automatically that Bamshad had his ass handed to him by Skye, because Skye's really good at keeping face in front of everyone, but behind closed doors, she's spicy, as most Persians are. I know people that treat their friends like gold, but then behind closed doors treat their family like shit. I'm not saying that she purposely treats her family like shit. I feel like she had a reason to, but this is the expectation that she also has of other people. Like, let's do things behind closed doors so that in front of other people we show that we're a strong unit, and I kind of agree with that. I think that this is also where her expectation from Tanin came from. Like, you come talk to me about problems that you have with me. Don't go to Reza and anybody else, because then it looks like, well, there's a crack in the friendship, you know? And I agree. I don't think Tanin intentionally, I think she was just kind of saying it, you know? And also, you need people to vent to. I think maybe where the issue is that Reza shouldn't have said anything. But now that it's out there, let's be solution oriented. How do we move past this, you know? For both of them, because we can't keep crying over spilled milk. The milk is already spilled. This is where Reza apologizes to Tanin for throwing her under the bus with the Skye about the serum comment. He's like, I didn't intend it on going there, but the way that she was acting and whatnot, just like I started to bring up all these things that I knew about her. Tanin wants Reza to think about Skye differently. Like, she came here alone. She built this life for herself. Perhaps it's not exactly what they think, as stuck up, but rather she has high expectations for herself. But it's just not coming out that way. Again, I'm going to stick to my theory that it's the way that Persians, or just any culture, okay, let's look at me. English is my first language. I know how to enunciate words. I know how to put power in words. When to put the power, when to not use it as much power, when to be passionate. But when I did it in Mexican, when I was in Mexico, when I was trying to speak it in Spanish, I was getting it all wrong, to a point that I was saying the word right, but I wasn't putting the emphasis on the right syllable in the word, that like they didn't understand what I was saying. You know? So, or if I were to talk in Spanish or even Farsi and emphasize those words how I would speak in English, they would be like, it just sounds different. They can tell there's an accent. It just sounds weird, you know? So I feel like this is where it is with Tanin. I don't think Tanin, Skye. I don't feel like Skye intentionally wants to be this biatch that she's been made out to be. I just think that the way she's kind of speaking about what she wants and how she is, it's getting lost in the tone of how she's saying it. And that could be in English as a second language type thing. Even though she speaks English perfect, it's still not her first language. So the tone is going to be off a little bit, you know? And it's also, whenever the tone is off, you always lose the battle, you know? Like, it sucks that way, but that's not necessarily what they said, but I feel it's like, again, the tone of the voice, you know? And in Persians, it's such a huge deal. It's like, don't talk to me that way, you know? It's always like that. Surprise, surprise. This part I didn't really expect, but Tommy texts Reza back and says, let's circle back once the season is wrapped, because we're still filming and it's so close to filming. And I think with Tommy, he doesn't want it for the cameras. He wants something that's genuine. So I feel this incident, like, let's circle back once the cameras are gone down. Could this have played a part in MJ deciding that, like, this is not the relationship I want to be in? Like, you know, there's so many factors, but this could be another kind of thing added to it, because he perhaps doesn't want to move forward. He wants to kind of live in this past. But I feel like MJ and Reza kind of need to understand, like, the guy went to jail, man. He has a criminal record because of this. Like, you know, and I know over time you can forgive, but maybe it's just not the right time yet for him to forgive. And like, MJ really wants it on her timeline, which I understand. Like, she wants to have fun. There's a reboot of the show and it's a new cast and it's like, let's start fresh. But if Tommy's not at that place, then Tommy's not at that place. So you do what you feel is best for you, and she decides, okay, I'm going to file for divorce, and that's fine. But I think now that she has, and Tommy's kind of laid his boundary, he has to be okay with that too. He has to be okay with the fact that this is his boundary and that she maybe didn't like that and like she wants to move on. So, you know, just stay true to yourself. Both of them. MJ has stayed true to herself. She put down a boundary. Tommy seemed to cross it, and she's like, okay, I'm not putting up with it. Tommy put down a boundary. He seemed initially at the beginning of the divorce a little bit confused that MJ wanted to do it, but it's kind of starting to play out. Like, especially when Mercedes says that when they podcast, it's kind of like the only time that they get along and have really effective communication, and that's fine and that's great. So that means that they're able to work together, you know. But then when it comes to the personal stuff, the stuff that perhaps is not filmed or in behind closed doors, that's maybe not as the best, or that's not the best for Mercedes, but Tommy might have thought it was great, and what Tommy thinks is great, not the best, you know, or what Tommy thinks is not the best, it's great for Mercedes. So at this point, yeah, move on. we are not trees, you guys. We don't have to stay stuck in places that we don't feel loved or that it's doing us any good anymore, you know? And unfortunately, when something is broken or things fall apart, there's always going to be one party that's going to be more hurt than the other because one is kind of ambushed by it, or one didn't want it to, one wanted to make it work, but one doesn't want it. One's just had it, and both sides need to be respected. But I think if someone wants to walk away, there's no point in begging for them to stay. And maybe it'll end up like Stacy and Themo, where eventually in the future they come back together. But if one person wants to leave, it's not up to the other to try to hold them hostage in something that they want to leave from. Let them leave. If you're meant to be, you'll come back together, you know? This is the perfect time for them to both, especially Tommy, to go off and do his thing and become stronger and make friends and really figure out what, you know, he wants to do and live and et cetera, you know? Mercedes or MJ was also saying that this Vita was totally blindsided by this too. She had no idea that this is perhaps how MJ felt, like we were getting to a point of, okay, I'm going to file for divorce, because they were like lovers. They were like Romeo and Juliet up until this point. Even Vita was confused, and then now they want to divorce. So, you know, it's just, it hit a boiling point, and there's only so much that people can do and say at that point to really save it, you know? So that was the Valley Persian style. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave some comments in the comment section. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share the podcast, rate, review the podcast. I really appreciate it. It helps me out. I will have another episode coming out tomorrow, a movie. It's going to be a movie review. Okay, guys? And after that, we're going to have some personal, some questions answered, because I've had some questions come through. Yay. I love the question ones, the AMA ones. But anyways, subscribe, like, and share. Find me on my social medias. All the stuff's in the show notes. If you go to the episode and you go into what the show is about, you will see all the information where you can find me. Please find me. Please comment. Again, subscribe, like, share. Appreciate you guys. Pursuers, you're the best. See you next time.